UFC 323 takes place this weekend, and in this video, I'm going to be giving you my exact predictions for how I think every fight in the card is going to play out. So without further ado, let's get into the picks. As always, I like to look at my past week's performance to see what we can improve upon, and at UFC Qatar, we were trash. That is correct. Absolute disgusting trash. 6-8 on picks. We had Barboza in the first fight of the night, heavyweight underdog. I took a shot on the unknown. I'm not taking a shot on the unknown again. He was absolutely terrible. We had Shamrock against Nurullo Aliyev. I thought maybe he can sneak in a teep kick to the body, get a weird Darce choke sub, but that was never happening. We also had Ryan Loder by decision. Goes out there, gets completely starched by Ismail Nurdiev very quickly. I did say that if Loder were to lose, it'd probably be a round one finish, but I didn't think he would lose. So, yeah. Begzat Almakhan, sheep pick of the week. I fell right into the sheep trap. I'm going to be trying to avoid sheep traps in the future. I have been doing well up until UFC Qatar. We also had Isagak Maiev against Nicholas Dalby. A UFC debutant fighting against Dalby without any real KO power. Probably should have seen that coming. We also had Tagir Ulanbekov against Kyoji Horiguchi. Probably should have picked Horiguchi because it's his big UFC return, and the UFC doesn't really like Ulanbekov. I had Jack Hermanson. Jeez Louise. This is a card where every one of my picks that lost looked really bad. They either got starched, they either got submitted, or they got beat pillar to post from round 1 to round 3. Also Bilal Muhammad. Just overall, bad week of picks. I went too out of my way to pick underdogs. And as for the bets, minus 1.98 units. Not the worst betting slate for losing literally every single straight bet. Jack Hermanson, Bilal, Begzat, Ryan Loder, Marek Bujlo. Lost a unit on each of them, but I somehow still only lost 1.98 units. So, not the worst week for bets, a horrible week for picks. Let's see if we can turn it around for UFC 323. I'm starting to feel like Parker from ESPN Bet, and I really don't want to be Parker from ESPN Bet. That guy's down over 150 units for 2025. That's crazy. I think I'm down about 9 units for the year, which, I mean, we can potentially get that back in the next 2 events. Let's get it. First fight in the card is Muhammad Naimov taking on Mairon Santos. The reason I have this fight labeled as masquerading mid is because I think both guys have shown signs of being really good, but they're masquerading as mid, which means that they're actually both really mid. I don't think either guy is actually good. They just so happen to be beating the lower level competition that the UFC is putting in front of them, and it just so happens that the UFC has now match-made them up against each other. If we're going to break this fight down fighter for fighter, well, Mairon Santos, he will have the reach advantage. He will be 6 years younger. He is on a 4-fight winning streak. He does throw with more volume. He's going to be the quicker striker, and he's got good striking defense. I think Muhammad Naimov's only real path to victory is to just notoriously relentlessly shoot for takedowns. He does average 2+ takedowns per fight. He can also land a big shot on Santos. If Muhammad Naimov doesn't get the takedowns going, which I don't think he will, I think he will gas out as the fight progresses. Mairon Santos notoriously does better as the fight progresses. So for all those reasons, I'm going with Mairon Santos to win this by decision. I just think he's the better minute winner than Muhammad Naimov. Mairon Santos is a concern because he does have a lot of close fights. If you look over his resume, it's close decision, split decision, split decision. He's not really winning dominantly in his UFC run, but against a guy like Naimov, I once again don't think he'll win dominantly either. I think he's going to win a 29-28. Next fight on the card is Mansur Abdul-Malik taking on Antonio Trocoli. Very simple. Mansur Abdul-Malik will find the finish in this fight. It just depends how he will find the finish. If you look at Antonio Trocoli, this guy just cannot take a punch. All right, if Mansur Abdul-Malik applies pressure early, he will more than likely find a KO in the first 2 to 3 minutes of the fight. I do say this, though. Antonio Trocoli does shoot a lot of bad takedowns, and Mansur Abdul-Malik has a guillotine win on his resume. Trocoli just lost by standing guillotine to Tresean Gore. So everyone taking Mansur Abdul-Malik to win by KO and betting the KO prop, I do say there is a very slight chance Mansur finds the sub You know, we saw Jacoby Smith against Nico Price. Everyone bet Jacoby Smith by KO. He goes out there and submits Nico Price. I can see something similar happening here, where everyone's betting Mansur by KO, and Mansur goes out there and finds the guillotine sub. However, I'm not doing that. I'm going with Mansur Abdul-Malik to find the round 1 KO. I just wanted to present an outside scenario where we could potentially see a Mansur sub, so that might, you know, dissuade you from betting Mansur simply by KO. Maybe take his finish prop instead. Antonio's not winning this, and there's no way, in my opinion. Next fight on the card is Ibo Aslan taking on Iwo Baraniewski. Iwo Baraniewski, high-level BJJ black belt. He's got iron cannons for fist, and we just saw him on the Contender Series knock out his opponent in less than 30 seconds. For all those reasons, you might just simply take Iwo Baraniewski as the -190 favorite. He seems fairly free. He's got the skill set to beat most UFC competitors. However, there is one glaring thing that I keep returning to when I try to pick Iwo Baraniewski, and it's the fact that he's 6-0 and he's fought complete cans. Literally not anyone that he's fought has been good whatsoever. Ibo Aslan is going to easily be the biggest step up in competition Iwo Baraniewski has had to this date. Ibo Aslan is 2-2 in the UFC. Ibo Aslan will have a 3-inch height advantage, 4-inch reach advantage, will have the same KO power that Iwo has. It basically just comes down to, can Baraniewski continuously shoot takedowns and get Ibo Aslan to the mat? If he can do that, Iwo Baraniewski by submission is a very interesting prop. But if he can't do that, I think Ibo Aslan, given his UFC experience, I know he's on a 2-fight losing streak where he looked very mid. He looked mid against Jan Kudalaba. Are we ready to say that Baraniewski is on Kudalaba's level? I say no. He also looked mid against Billy Alakana, straight up had a sparring match. But since then, Billy Alakana has looked like a world beater. He submitted Kevin Christian in the first round and made it look fairly easy. So, are we really going to write off Ibo Aslan because of those two weird mid-performances against the guy making his UFC debut that has not been truly tested yet at all? At all? I'm going with Ibo Aslan to win this fight by round 2 KO. I think the first round, Baraniewski is going to attack the takedowns, potentially will find the back, potentially will put Ibo Aslan in a very precarious situation, but I think as the fight progresses, this guy Baraniewski, I don't even believe he's made it to like round 3 or even the scorecards. So if this fight continues past round 1, I think we see Ibo Aslan turn up the pressure. And Baraniewski, a guy that's never really dealt with pressure, I think he will not like it. Next fight on the card is Edson Barboza taking on Jalin Turner. Jalin Turner, in his last fight against Ignacio Bahamondes, he went out there, got triangle choked from guard, and then he retired right after the fight. So with that alone, you shouldn't just not be betting Jalin Turner. I mean, this guy mentally wanted to quit fighting in his last fight, which took place not even a year ago. Now he's making his return against the ghost of Edson Barboza. Edson Barboza just went out there and lost a very easy decision to Jerkar Close, and it was mainly a striking battle. So if you're losing a striking battle to Jerkar Close, and Jalin Turner's got the 4-inch height advantage, 9 years younger, throws with more volume. He's the southpaw versus Barboza, who's the orthodox. He can also mix in takedowns. Jalin Turner is just a better version of Jerkar Close. So for those reasons, I'm going with Jalin Turner to win this fight by KO. Next fight on the card is Marvin Vettori taking on Bruno Ferreira. Bruno Ferreira, 14 wins, 2 losses. All 16 of those fights have ended inside the distance. This guy does not know how to win a decision. If you watch back Bruno's fights, he's often losing until he wins. He throws with not a lot of volume whatsoever, and he's going to be way smaller in this fight. Marvin Vettori's never been finished. Bruno Ferreira has never won by decision. Something's got to give here, and I think what's going to happen is Marvin Vettori, with the 2-inch height advantage, 2-inch reach advantage, he throws with more volume, he can mix in takedowns, he's actually younger than Bruno Ferreira. If Marvin Vettori were to win, it would be by decision, and if Bruno were to win, it would be by finish, and Marvin's never been finished. It has to be that simple, right? Marvin's never been finished, Bruno only wins by finish. How can you possibly pick Bruno when Marvin has the Italian iron chin? There's really no reason to take Bruno. Why would you take Brunno by decision? That makes no sense. Most of Tapology is picking Brunno by decision. That literally makes zero sense. Brunno doesn't throw at high volume. He relies on the big shot. And Marvin eats those big shots for breakfast, and I think he'll win enough minutes to win this fight. So give me Marvin Vettori to win this by decision. The math is simple. You pick the guy that's never been finished against the guy that has only won by finish. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you. Next fight on the card is Farez Ziam taking on Nazim Sadykhov. Whenever I sit down to make my picks, I try to find a fight on the card that a lot of people are picking the underdog. And in those scenarios, I tend to think that that is a sheep pick. Now, in this one, a lot of people, almost everyone, is taking Nazim Sadykhov. Yet he still remains an underdog. He is the Tapology favorite, but he remains a betting underdog. Now, what does that tell me? It tells me that Nazim Sadykhov probably this week is the sheep play. If you're betting Nazim and you're taking him in this fight, I believe you're falling for the sheep trap. If you look at the variables, Ziam's going to be way longer. He's going to be way taller. He can mix in takedowns, and Nazim Sadykhov notoriously has not dealt well with takedowns in the past. Nazim Sadykhov notoriously is often losing until he's winning. Against Nicholas Mata, he nearly got KO'd. Against Terrence McKinney, he nearly got subbed. Against Slava Claus, he nearly got KO'd. He's often losing until he wins. And a guy like Ziam, who I think is fighting very smart lately, his fight IQ is on display in his recent fights. I think Farez Ziam can mix in takedowns to win. I think he can keep Nazim Sadykhov at range to win. And I don't really see a path to victory for Sadykhov other than to do what Terrence McKinney did, which is take him down in round 1 and submit him. And I just don't see that outcome happening, considering Nazim has 8 KOs and only 2 submission wins. He's not really a potent grappler like a Terrence McKinney. So for all those reasons, I'm going to try to avoid the sheep pick, I think, and I'm going with Farez Ziam to win this by decision. I just think he keeps Nazim at range, and he mixes in takedowns to secure the victory. Next fight on the card is Maycee Barber taking on Karine Silva. I really don't see any reason to bet or pick the underdog Karine Silva in this matchup. It is women's mixed martial arts, so that could be a reason. And Maycee Barber is coming off a horrific injury or health scare, whatever it was that caused her to pull out of the Erin Blanchfield main event. Whatever that was, I am hoping that she has taken the proper time off to get back in the cage against a woman like Karine Silva. She also has a 53% takedown defense, and all Karine Silva does is go for takedowns. But Karine Silva, against higher level competition, she does get the takedowns, but she doesn't really do much with them. So against a girl like Maycee Barber, who, yes, she doesn't deal with takedowns well, but she has a great get-up game. Great get-up game. So I think she can tire out Karine with the repeated takedowns. I think she's the way better striker than Karine. I think she can even mix in takedowns of her own against Karine, who has a sub 50% takedown defense. And I think this is just a levels fight. I think Maycee Barber is levels ahead of Karine Silva. The only reason to pick her, really, is that she has Fighting Nerds aura. And we know the Fighting Nerds, they've been losing lately. So we're going with Maycee Barber to win this by decision. I think this is fairly simple. It will look a little sketchy if Silva gets a takedown early and just holds Barber's back for the first round, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, she's definitely down a round. Let's see what the judges think about rounds 2 and 3. But Maycee Barber is the better fighter. She should win this fight. Next fight on the card is Terrence McKinney taking on Chris Duncan. Terrence McKinney, you really can't pick or bet this guy ever. That's the whole breakdown. However, I find myself in a situation where he's fighting a guy like Chris Duncan. And we've seen the holes in Chris Duncan's game, all right? Manuel Torres took this guy down in round 1 and submitted him. Terrence McKinney, what does he do? He goes to take people down in round 1 and tries to submit them. Why can't he do that against Chris Duncan, who only uses guillotines as a form of takedown defense? If Terrence McKinney avoids the guillotine of Chris Duncan, he will have a field day on the ground against Chris Duncan. That's what I ultimately believe is going to happen. Terrence McKinney, he does have 1 round of cardio, but I don't think Chris Duncan is like this cardio monster that's going to outpace Terrence McKinney. I think This is going to end in round 1 regardless. We've seen Chris Duncan chinned in round 1. We've seen Chris Duncan submitted in round 1. We've seen Terrence McKinney chinned in round 1. You just got, if you think the fight will end early, you have to go with the guy that ends fights early. So I'm going with Terrence McKinney to win this fight by submission. I think he's just going to pull the Manuel Torres game plan, get the takedown on Chris Duncan, avoid the guillotine, and submit him. If this stays standing, yeah, I mean, Chris Duncan might be slightly better. I'm not even convinced that he's actually that much better in the striking than Terrence McKinney. So it's never a good idea to take Terrence McKinney, but if I think this fight's going to end early, I got to go with the guy that ends fights early. Give me Terrence. Next fight on the card is Grant Dawson taking on Manuel Torres. I love how the UFC has both Terrence McKinney and Manuel Torres on the same card, fighting in back-to-back fights, both fights with them as the underdog. They are literally the same fighter, Manuel Torres and Terrence McKinney. The big difference is Manuel Torres has a little more cardio, Manuel Torres has a better chin, and Manuel Torres has better KO ability on the feet than Terrence McKinney. Now, against the guy like Grant Dawson, this guy is good. However, he's only has one way to win, which is shoot takedowns relentlessly. He can do that. We've seen him average nearly 4+ takedowns per UFC fight. However, in the one fight that he didn't do that, he got chinned by Bobby Green. In the other fight, he didn't do that. He nearly got submitted by Ricky Glenn. If Ricky Glenn and Bobby Green are nearly beating you in a UFC fight, Bobby Green actually beating you, I don't know how you can survive against a guy like Manuel Torres, who's going to have a 2-inch reach advantage. He's going to have 88% takedown defense. He throws with more power, throws with more volume, and he only looks bad when he has a big size disadvantage. And in this one, he actually will have the size advantage himself. So for all those reasons, I'm going with Manuel Torres to win this fight by round 1 KO. Very similar to Terrence McKinney. You can even do a McKinney-Torres parlay. McKinney to win in round 1, Manuel Torres to win in round 1. I don't hate that idea. And then backwards speaking, you can do Chris Duncan to win by decision and Grant Dawson to win by decision. You'll probably get good plus money on that. I think these fights, back-to-back, are going to go very similarly. I just so happen to think McKinney finds the sub, Manuel Torres finds the KO, but I can see a world where Chris Duncan decision, Grant Dawson decision. I don't know how Grant Dawson's going to survive if he doesn't get takedowns, and Manuel Torres should find the chin if that's the case. Next fight on the card is Jan Blachowicz taking on Bogdan Guskov. Bogdan Guskov, he's going to be 9 years younger. He's going to have big power in the hands. He's landed a knockdown in 3 of his last 4 fights. This is a step up in comp, but honestly, the way that he's been fighting with how he fought Nikita Krylov last fight out, this is a worthy step up in comp. And in terms of the striking, Jan Blachowicz is going to come out with double knee pads, all right? He's 42 years old. Bogdan Guskov will be the better striker. Now, if you look at Blachowicz's resume, it is hard to pick against him. His only recent losses are to the champ, Alex Pereira, the number 2 guy, Magomed Ankalaev, and the number 3 guy, Carlos Ulberg. Is Bogdan Guskov good enough to be in that realm of fighters? I don't think so, but I also don't really see how Jan Blachowicz wins this fight. I mean, he can shoot for takedowns, but they are not really successful in his recent fights. I mean, even if he gets the takedowns, I doubt he'll get to a position where he can submit Bogdan. And we have not seen Blachowicz's Polish power since 2020. He has not knocked anyone out. He has not submitted anyone since 2020. He's fought 5 or 6 times since. Every single fight has gone to either a draw or a split decision. So against Bogdan Guskov, I think he's going to be quicker on the feet. I think he's going to have more power, way younger. UFC would much rather Bogdan win than Jan Blachowicz. So for those reasons, I'm going with Bogdan Guskov to win this fight, actually surprisingly, by KO. Bogdan Guskov notoriously is not good at winning decisions. He's 0-1 to the decision. So if it does get to the scorecards, Blachowicz, yes, has a very high chance to win. But Bogdan Guskov, I don't know. I just think his time is now. Blachowicz's time is over. It's time for Bogdan Guskov to win. Next fight on the card is Henry Cejudo taking on Peyton Talbot. Peyton Talbot, he's going to have a 6-inch height advantage, 3-inch reach advantage. He's 11 years younger. He throws with double the volume, and he just went up against Felipe Lima, who tested his takedown defense to an extraordinary level, and he looked pretty good against Felipe Lima. You look at Henry Cejudo, how does he win this fight? Well, he is an Olympic wrestler. He could go for takedowns. He does have a lot of UFC experience, and he is a former champ at underdog odds. But if you look back at Cejudo's recent couple fights, he landed 0 takedowns against Song Yadong, and in his last 6 fights, he's landed 6 takedowns total. This guy's not really shooting for takedowns as often as you would think an Olympic-level wrestler would be doing. Against Peyton Talbot, even if he shoots for infinite takedowns like we haven't seen him do in multiple fights, I think Talbot's takedown defense has been improving and is good enough to deal with Cejudo, who has no striking. That's the problem. Cejudo has no real good striking. So if Talbot isn't scared of the hands of Cejudo, I doubt that Cejudo will have success with the takedowns because there's nothing to fear in the power department. Talbot can just keep his hands down the entire time. So for all those reasons, it is a very weird matchup. It is a very big jump up in comp for Talbot, but I think it is deserving, and I'm going with Peyton Talbot to win this fight by decision. I think out of every play on the card, this fight to go to decision has to be the freest thing on the earth. There's no way Peyton Talbot's finishing Cejudo, and there's no way Cejudo's finishing Talbot. This fight's going to decision guaranteed. Next fight on the card is Brandon Moreno taking on Tatsuro Taira. Brandon Moreno, he's the former champ at underdog odds. Just like I said for Henry Cejudo, that should be enough to pick them and bet them. He also will be the better striker. He's also throwing with more volume, and he's also never been finished, never been submitted, never been KO'd. So how is Tatsuro Taira supposed to win this fight? He needs to find the sub to win, right? Or wrong. Tatsuro Taira, he will shoot relentlessly for takedowns. Brandon Moreno has a 64% takedown defense. He's not the best at defending the takedowns, guys. Tatsuro Taira also can just get the back standing. Tatsuro Taira is going to constantly be moving forward. Brandon Moreno, yes, he will be the better striker, but will Tatsuro Taira even allow striking to be had? Will he? I doubt Tatsuro Taira is just going to stand at range with Moreno for 3 rounds. If you look back at the Royval fight, I think Tatsuro Taira learned a lot in that 5-round loss. He almost won the fight. Maybe should have won the fight, but I think Tatsuro Taira is not going to allow striking to be had. He knows what his path to victory is. It is to get the takedown. It is to secure the back of Brandon Moreno. He's going to be 6 years younger. Brandon Moreno has taken loads of damage at this point in his career. And Brandon Moreno has not fought in a 3-round fight since 2020. His last 7 or 8 fights have all been 5-rounders. That tells me that maybe Moreno might start slow. Maybe Moreno drops the first round because he's used to 5-round fights and he's used to picking it up as the fight progresses. Maybe in this one, he won't have the time to do that. So for those reasons, it might be a weird take. I think Brandon Moreno is another sheep pick of the week. All right? Underdog that everyone's picking, Brandon Moreno, seems sheepish, which is why I'm going with Tatsuro Taira to win this fight by decision. I could see a submission. I could. Moreno's never been finished, so I'm leaning decision, though. Next fight on the card is Alexandre Pantoja taking on Joshua Van. Don't get me wrong. There are a lot of reasons to take the underdog in this matchup, Joshua Van. He's going to be 11 years younger, which is crazy. 81% takedown defense, and the takedown defense is improving fight to fight. I mean, you look at his fight versus Ray Saruya. Ray Saruya shot for 20-plus takedowns in their 3-round fight, and he only landed 4. And of the 4 that he landed, Joshua Van almost got up instantly. So if Josh Van can do that against Pantoja, he's going to win this fight. He's the way better striker. He throws with double the volume. And you look at Pantoja, he's getting cracked on the feet. He has an iron chin, but at some point the iron chin has to get cracked. And I think Joshua Van, actually has the tools to crack Pantoja's iron chin. You look at his fight versus Moreno. Moreno was cracking this dude. Pantoja, boof, just eating it like it's for breakfast. Joshua Van throws with a different type of power, a different level of striking that Pantoja has not faced. So for all those reasons, I'm going with Alexandre Pantoja to win this fight by, I'm going to say, round 3 submission. I mean, guys, Joshua Van has never been 5 rounds. You expect me to pick him against a dominant champ in Pantoja in the midst of his dominant title reign, where he's dog-walked his last 2 opponents and taken them down at will and got easy work on the ground with them? I don't see how Josh Van survives that. Pantoja is just on a different level of grappler right now, and I think he's going to submit Josh Van. In the main event, we got Merab Dvalishvili taking on Petr Yan. This is a rematch, and in the first fight, Merab Dvalishvili broke the takedown attempted record by getting 49 takedown attempts over 5 rounds against Petr Yan. So if he mimics that in this fight, he should win. He completed 20 takedowns against Sandhagen, and also same argument for Pantoja. He's a dominant champ in the midst of a dominant title reign. How does he lose this fight? I don't know. So for those reasons, I'm going to be going with Petr Yan to win by decision. Hear me out. Hold on. Before you get the pitchforks and run to the comments saying Finn's is just taking underdogs for the sake of underdogs, let me say this. In the first fight, Petr Yan was fighting with a broken right hand. You watch back the exchanges, Petr Yan was barely throwing the right hand the entire fight. That definitely did not help him defend takedowns, and that definitely led him to losing 150 to 75 on significant strikes. In this one, Petr Yan has a brand new hand. He's good to go there. Petr Yan is on a little mini win streak right now since he lost to Merab. All he's probably been thinking about is that fight against Merab, about how he got dog-walked in the takedown department. So Petr Yan, if he comes out here and gets better takedown defense than he did against the first fight against Merab, Petr Yan, if he comes out here with 2 good hands, I think he has an excellent path to victory. Also, Merab, I believe this is his 4th or 5th fight this year. I feel like that's just too many. I like the activity, but I think constantly cutting weight is going to catch up to him. I think constantly taking damage in each of these fights is going to catch up to him. I think Petr Yan is the perfect opponent to take advantage of that at this very moment. Also, Petr Yan, plus 315. What are we talking about? Why are the odds insanely wide? He's literally better than Sandhagen, and Sandhagen was like a plus 250. So the odds are weird. Petr Yan has 2 good hands. Merab is way too active, and I think the weight cuts are going to get to him. And Petr Yan has probably been having nightmares about the first match to the point where he needs to win this fight. So, like I said, I'm going to reiterate, Petr Yan by decision. Here are my most confident takes of the card. If you've been paying attention to these videos, you will know that the confident takes section has been slapping at an extraordinarily high rate. I haven't been keeping track. You can look at my Twitter if you want to see how the confident takes have been doing. You go to my highlights. I have these in the highlights, but let's begin. Here we go. Mansur Abdul-Malik by finish. Do not take the KO prop. There is a chance he submits Trocoli. Let's take the finish. Jalin Turner moneyline. I think he KOs Barboza. Would not be shocked to just see a sparring match where Turner just wins. Turner wins. That's it. Marvin Vettori decision only. Now, I do think Marvin Vettori wins, but if you want to take it a step further and take something that is almost a near guarantee, if the fight goes to decision, Marvin Vettori wins. That is the bet. If Vettori gets finished, you get your money back. If Vettori finds the finish, you get your money back. If it goes to decision and Marvin loses, you lose. But I don't think that happens. Whoa! Sorry about that. Maycee Barber moneyline. Now, the more I think about this, yes, Karine Silva could have takedown success, but I just think Maycee Barber is just a way better fighter. So, and my sneaky takes. This is basically every underdog that I have selected and I've said I think is going to win. Let's get into it. Ibo Aslan moneyline. Everyone on Twitter is roasting me for this take. They're saying Ibo Aslan is trash. Have you even watched his recent fights? Yes, I've seen them, but have you seen Baraniewski's recent fights? No, because there's no footage on them, or they're in garages and malls. Ibo Aslan has a really good chance to win. That's all I'm going to say. Terrence McKinney moneyline. It is always questionable to take Terrence McKinney in any fight against anybody, but against Chris Duncan, who's been winning straight up on memes, and McKinney wins on memes, I think he can win the meme battle here. Manuel Torres money line. Now, if I'm picking Terrence McKinney, I gotta pick Manuel Torres. They literally are like that meme of the African American hand and the cis white male hand doing the handshake. They are literally the same person. I just think Manuel Torres is better. He happens to be fighting a better person. I think he wins. Bogdan Guskov money line. Jan Blachowicz is 42 years old. Peter Yan money line. I think he's been having nightmares. He needs this. He knows everyone's on Merab. No one's taking Peter Yan. Why? Not a soul. Everyone always takes Peter Yan. Why not now? Merab, the weight cuts. I'm telling you, it could be bad. Merab, if he doesn't get the takedowns, it could be bad. Peter Yan has two good hands. Listen. Just listen. Leave a like, a comment, subscribe. Let me know in the comments who your favorite underdog of the week is. And if you hit, I'll shout you out in next week's video. See you on Friday.